What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bold Voices. I'm Angela Bel Camino. So excited to have you here. Get ready for some real talk, some bold talk tonight. Please join in the conversation. We love to hear from you. If you wouldn't mind reposting, sharing the stream, that would be great. Like it, subscribe over on YouTube. I missed you guys last week. I'm very excited about the three guests tonight who all have something in common. They were all at CPAC last week. We're ready to unpack CPAC and talk with these lovely folks. Guys, thanks so much. Please put your comments, your bold comments, your thoughts in the chat. And welcome the amazing Brandon Straka, founder of the hashtag Walkaway Movement, Vicky Richter, and Madeline Elizabeth. Guys, I'm so excited to talk with the three of you. You all have that in common. You were all at CPAC last week. I was not there. I want to get right to it. Brandon, you gave a very powerful speech, and I want to start by playing a piece of it for everyone.
Okay.
I was going through my hell. Only two members, elected members of Congress, took my phone calls. Two. That was Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie was one of the only elected members of Congress to visit J6ers in prison. She was the only member of Congress to sponsor the Matthew Lawrence Perna bill, named after one of the J6ers who committed suicide due to the brutality he endured at the hands of the United States government. And a few years ago, she came to the walkaway booth at CPAC and held my hands and prayed with me while the media took pictures of us and mocked us. And now a directive has gone out that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a traitor. And if you want to be a part of the in crowd, it is mandatory that you must hate her too. If I were to ask, probably at least half the people in this room would say that they didn't like her anymore. And if I were to ask why, I bet the majority wouldn't even know themselves. When did we become the left? When did we become hive-minded, mean, and tribal? When did we decide that not only must we cancel those we disagree with, but we must control the people around us with intimidation, demanding that they think the way we think and join the cancel mob too, or be branded themselves? And when did we allow some of the most toxic, nasty, and vicious people on the planet to become the spokespeople for MAGA and the arbiters of purity tests, deciding who is and isn't worthy enough to continue to call themselves MAGA? But perhaps, most importantly, when did we decide that it was off limits to question our own government or the government of any other country? Let me tell you something. If you call yourself a patriot, but you believe that it is your obligation to only praise and only worship your president, then you must not be a patriot of this country, because leader worship is how citizens behave in nations that aren't free. You can love your president, and you should, but it is your duty and your obligation as a free citizen of the United States of America to challenge and question your government every day, regardless of who the president of the United States is.
Well, I feel the passion. Honestly, it's very powerful. I definitely feel the passion. I'm curious. I mean, I've seen a bit of the reaction, that people, the response that you've received. Madeline, Vicky, were you present? Like, were you actually there at Brandon's speech? I know, Madeline, you shared it on social media.
Yeah, no, I loved his speech, and I represent somebody running in the District 1 in Georgia, and the Marjorie Taylor Greene statement spoke volumes to everybody in Georgia, because she used to be the #1 person. She was a celebrity when she walked into every restaurant. Now MEGA's basically told everyone in Georgia, Republicans in Georgia, that they're not allowed to host her. She's like enemy #1. And when she's always been a fighter for all of us. And it makes me so sad to see so many people turn their back on her when she's been such a leader for so many MAGA candidates who before were considered fringe, or, they would never be considered a part of the Republican Party. And it just makes me really sad where we are today.
Yep.
Oh, Vicky, you're muted. You're fine.
Oh, here we go.
Good, yeah.
Perfect. No, so I think it's a kind of a huge betrayal towards her because she's the actual one who was MAGA from the beginning till the end. Like what we heard with the whole J6ers, and I had the chance to interview her several times, and she was always there. So I think that's very important to state and recognize. And I think what they're doing now to her is, frankly said, BS. Only because she's not following some policies which says, oh, we have to send all our sons and daughters to a war which is not our war, not your war, to let them die for a potential puppet state. So I think it's not a good behavior what you do towards her, and especially not Trump, because he can actually be very thankful to sit in that seat again because of her.
Brandon showed courage. I just want to say I am thankful for Brandon. He showed courage. His speech was probably the most based, which is why you see it circulating on every timeline right now. Typically, in years past at CPAC, that speech would be there'd be one of many, and all of us uniting together. We would not have these infighting speeches, and it's just so sad to me. And we need more people like Brandon to come out and say the infighting has to stop and what has happened to our party. I say it all the time, but then I also get a lot of flack for it, and it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm curious how you feel afterwards, Brandon. How has the response been? How have you felt about it after all that?
Well, I like right now in this exact moment, I honestly, I was sitting here feeling kind of emotional. I almost felt like I was choking up a little bit because I at CPAC, and thank you to the two girls on the panel here, because Madeline and Vicky, because I really appreciate that, and it means a lot to me. And so before I tell you kind of like what the feedback was in the moment, why don't I kind of tell you what it was like leading up to actually doing it? Because it's important to remember, first of all, I don't consider myself like an influencer. I consider myself an activist, and I consider myself the leader and founder of the Walkaway campaign, because that's my organization. And the reason why I draw that distinction is because it's not just me. And believe me, many times I wish it was, because if the decisions I made and the things I said only affected me, my life would be a lot easier. But I have employees in my organization. I have people who have worked for me for 7 years. I have people who've gotten married since they started Walkaway. I have people who have had children since they started Walkaway who work for me. And so every word that comes out of my mouth and every stupid thing I do has an impact on other people's lives. And so before I gave this speech, I sat down with my team and I was like, are you guys okay with this? Because I was like, I'm saying something positive about Tucker. I'm saying something positive about Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I was like, there's a high probability that we're going to lose donors and we're going to lose supporters and people are going to turn on me. And the one thing I'll say about Walkaway, like, we're not hive-minded. They're like, not everyone agrees with everyone about politics and policies and politicians and whatever. So like, in fact, the guy who's worked with me the longest, Paul, we often disagree like, I'm always just like, oh my God, Paul, he likes, oh my God, eye patch. Oh my God, help me. I'm totally blanking right now, from Texas. Dan Crenshaw. Like, yeah, he loves
guy.
Dan. Yeah, like, Paul has never met a rhino he didn't love. And so,
God.
yeah, so I'm always just like, oh my God, Paul. But anyway, everyone agreed that this was a really important thing to say and it needed to be said, and that we would kind of take it on the chin as a team if we had to, and whatever the fallout is, we'll deal with it together. And so when I got that blessing from my team, I kind of just took a deep breath and I went out on stage because I know the CPAC audience. I've spoken at CPAC 7 or 8 years in a row. This is not an audience that wants to hear anything unfavorable about Trump or MAGA. And since there is this split and this divide now, and Trump is against Marjorie and now he's against Tucker. And so I just thought, I really, the night before CPAC, I was practicing it in my room and I was preparing for every possible outcome. Literally, I was preparing if I got booed from beginning to end, which I thought was very possible, that I would just go out and just be booed. And then I kind of prepared if people clapped, and I prepared for if it was a mixture of both, and it kind of was a little bit of mixture of both. But something really interesting happened while I was giving the speech. When I mentioned Tucker the first time, I had already kind of laid the groundwork that this speech was about people being tribal and hive-minded and just going with the, what they're told to do. And so by the time I had mentioned Tucker's name, a lot of people in the audience had that like reflexive knee-jerk kind of like, ugh. And then I swear to God, I felt them catch themselves doing it. Like they were almost like, oh my God, we're doing exactly what he's talking about right now. And you could almost feel them kind of go like, like try to like almost walk it back. And then by the time I got to Marjorie, they either just sort of clapped or sat there and silently. There was a little bit of groaning, but not as much as there was for Tucker. And then I finished the speech. And when I finished the speech, I was walking around the hallways and I didn't have a single negative comment. Every single, and a lot of people came up to me and said, thank you so much for saying that. Why is no one else saying this? That was the most important thing I heard at CPAC. You're the only person, it was overwhelmingly positive at that point.
That's amazing. That must feel so rewarding because I mean, I try to get through to my Democratic friends a lot, and there's really no budging. So it really says something about, that you had that reaction and that you made people think. You said the quiet part out loud. We talk about that kind of a lot, right? And how powerful saying, and because there are people that agree with you. I feel like when you do say it out loud, people are like, oh, it's not just me. And I don't know, there's some fear. People are fearing saying it first, right? Because of these echo chambers and fear of getting attacked or canceled and stuff like that. But you did it, and how, impactful that people were like, oh, like, okay, I'm feeling that way too and thinking. So,
but
making people second guess and think, catch themselves and.
But yeah. Angela, can I just say really quickly too, because you kind of touched on something that I think is so important, and it's like it doesn't matter whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right. If you're a person who I think is prone to have kind of like an extreme stance on something, I think you're also prone to be the kind of person who will lash out and be vicious to people. And what I notice is like, isn't it amazing that whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right, it's always the people who are kind and who are more balanced in their oh, maybe we shouldn't, turn on this person, whatever. Those are always the people who are afraid to speak up. Like, why is it always the common sense people who have to be afraid? And all the people who are vicious and nasty, they always feel emboldened to speak up whenever they want to. Shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't those of us like kind of in the middle of the road, who are more common sense, who are more even keeled, and who are nicer and kinder people, shouldn't we be the ones who should always feel emboldened to speak our minds? And shouldn't we make those other people who are always calling people names and wanting to cancel people and wanting to be so vicious, why don't we make those people afraid to speak up? That's what I'd like to see happen.
I just have one thing I can say too, though, is I think the fact that you're on the ground a lot in places, I'm on the ground a lot in places, I have found that a lot of the people who are mean and rude and take these really strong opinions, they're not out there. We all have to help candidates. We all have people that we have to live up to. When you're on the ground and you're listening to constituents and you're trying to get voters to come out and vote, you're not talking about Israel. You're not talking about Iran. In fact, you're trying to stay away from it. You're talking about affordability. You're talking about different things that matter. And it's just unfortunate that right now the Republican Party is platforming influencers that don't ever go, they've never even registered a voter. So we have a real problem right now. We're letting people who don't really put the hard work in kind of lead the way with these like following the movement that's really far right, but the real base is on the ground, and the people who are doing the work, they are not like that. I mean, I'm on your show a lot, Angela. I think you would agree I'm very middle ground with everything, and I would agree with everything Brandon said in his speech and tonight.
And what I think is also very important, because you said the part with Israel and Iran, is the loudest people promoting that war never been in war. They never served. They never had boots on the ground. They maybe never even lost a comrade or a partner or a family member in war. And they are the loudest ones who scream for war. And then I always think, okay, so why don't you then just sign up and go to war, gear up and go? If you want to fight that war, why don't you go? And that's the same thing with the crowd, what I saw at CPAC. Like 60% on Saturday were Iranians. Like that was
Yeah.
it was not a CPAC for America, it was CPAC Iran.
It
And
is
then they were all
yes.
fighting
You
aged
saw more
men.
MAGA hats than you saw mega hats. Like I saw
Yeah.
mega hats ever. I was like, where am I?
It was crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. And that's like they promoting this war. And then you look into those people who are there, like they are fighting aged men. So if you want to free your country, why don't you go and fight for your country? Why does America or NATO, which they don't do, because I really appreciate it that the other NATO allies are not that warmongering right now, jumping into this and go to there and fight. Like it's not our war. And then when people say, yeah, but the Strait of Hormuz is closed, yeah, it was open before you start bombing it. Like, so why are we promoting this right now? And right now, nobody is talking about regime change anymore. Everyone is only talking about the oil. So what was actually intention in going in there in the first place?
Can I ask Madeline and Vicky, do we know why there was such a large Iranian constituency at CPAC? Like, was that ever explained?
So what I heard, because when I was there in the morning on Saturday, they even closed the vendor area downstairs because there were too many Iranian coming to the event without a badge. They tried just to attend for the speech. So they had to close it down because of security issues. Then they opened it up again. And then there were also rumors there were even buses coming there, driving them in to see their Shah as our speaker. So that was kind of like the main point, because he was on stage talking. So it was.
Interesting.
And then the funny thing was there were 3 different groups of Iranians. Like one, they were really cultish about like the Shah will be is our hope and everything will be fine when he's back. Then you have the middle group, which was a little bit more moderate. They say we just want to have regime change. And then you had the other ones who were literally against the Shah and remembered all the things what his father did before he got replaced by the Ayatollahs and the communists. So it's kind of like interesting watching them interact, because the third group and the first group, they didn't get along at all. They were like screaming at each other. So it was kind of interesting to see. And it was, like I said, I saw more Iranian people on Saturday than actually American or America First ones.
Interesting.
I
That
mean,
is
I
really
think personally,
interesting.
though, also, I think there was a lot of people who feel, or like you said, were afraid to come because the Bannon fight, because they saw Bannon was coming. I think Matt Schlapp's back was up against a wall. The speaker list wasn't the greatest. There was a lot of talk about Christian persecution, the Iranian war. I mean, it just felt like it was a lot of international voices, and it was a lot about Christian persecution, a lot of Judeo-Christian. And that's okay, but that's not really what CPAC is about. That the CPAC is about the conservative movement and how we can get voters out and all the things we have to tackle come vote, come election time. It's never been about like Christianity. This isn't like an APAC conference or an Iranian or Persian conference, right? I feel like Matt Schlapp's back was against a wall. He couldn't invite Tucker. Last year, Megyn Kelly spoke. He can't invite Megyn Kelly because, again, that's one side. Bannon was already, it's been years of Bannon always taking stage in the expo room. I feel like that was like already pushing it. And so you get these bad speakers. Nobody even knew who the speakers were because they couldn't get anybody confirmed. And so, yeah, you know, that's what happens when you have this divide in the party. And you have the administration calling conservatives, like Catholics. Certain Catholics are unhappy because of the way people are attacking Catholics. And I was happy Jack Posobiec at least spoke, you know, but even he's up against a wall. He's been in the military and he doesn't want boots on the ground. He doesn't know what to say anymore. Everyone's back is up against a wall. And I feel bad. And, you know, he's on the Charlie Kirk show. Charlie was one of his best friends, but he doesn't always agree with that. Everyone's back is up against a wall right now. And I just miss when everybody was like, we all came together and spent the last decade getting people elected and worked so hard to do so. And I took note of everybody that was there because I think that's something that we should all remember, who put in the work and the time.
Yeah. Such great points, guys. Going back to this whole infighting, and, you know, Brandon, your statement really resonated with me, kind of saying, you know, the whole, when did we become the left? Because that is what I feel like my experience has been, is the second that I started saying I'm not going to be doom and gloom and root for the country to fail and criticize every single thing that Trump is doing just because, and that we should be, you know, that whatever, all of this stuff, I became a Nazi and a fascist, and I got canceled just for asking questions. Essentially what you're saying, we should be able to ask questions, hold people accountable, challenge things. And I feel like all of us feel that way. It seems so reasonable, so common sense. Why aren't we able to do that?
But they are
When did
afraid.
this shift happen and why? What is preventing these sort of honest conversations about how, you know, people on the right are feeling? Is it fear of being attacked? You know, as you're saying, Madeline, backs are against the wall. Has this been a gradual shift, or was there a specific turning point? I'm wondering how you guys feel about that.
So I think the turning point was when the government or the Trump administrations was falling behind delivering their promises to being elected. Mm-hmm. Like we had this whole hype of, oh, we're gonna publish all the Epstein files. And then you had this amazing staged event where everyone got this little binder and everyone was happy. All those influencers getting those binders. And, oh yeah, we have it now. We can talk about it. And then you had all them black out, like all the names were black out. And then you had Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene going into Congress and forcing to expose more of the Epstein files. So then suddenly Epstein files was just a Democrat hawk. So that never happened. So everyone who literally voted for Trump to get those names out, to get persecution started, got slapped in the face. Till now, nobody is even persecuted. The only one who's actually persecuting right now is the UK with Prince Andrew. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge promise what they don't deliver. And then the other what they don't deliver is, oh, we don't gonna start another never-ending war. So now we are literally jumping from one expedition to another expedition. First we went to Venezuela, or you went to Venezuela. Now you have the Iran. Now they're already talking about Cuba. And then they want to get Greenland. So that's not literally what they're saying to get elected. So I think that's the turning point where people start asking questions. So, okay, why did I actually vote for? And then the decreasing numbers of deportations, like you started really well with ICE, and then suddenly you stopped, and then you had Trump even saying, yeah, some of the illegals are actually really good because I like people having my yard done well. So, okay, maybe you should employ American. They can probably use a grass cutter also, so you don't need an illegal for doing that. So that's kind of like not delivering the promises how they got into office, and I think that's one of the turning points.
Yeah,
I agree with all of that. I will say, I think that there's been a major turning point during this administration, particularly in this last year. But I also think, so I came onto the scene almost 8 years ago. It was May of 2018. That's when I started Walkaway, and I kind of came into the world of politics, and people started to know who I was. And I can tell you that going all the way back then, so I'm not going to get into this tonight, but I was going through for many years a pretty rough thing behind the scenes, with a number of like high profile conservative influencers, and personalities in the movement who I would say were using their power, their proximity to the president, their money, to bully people. And I was one of those people, and also, try to sabotage people, blacklist people. And when I would try to talk about it, because I was very new to the scene, um, I was already kind of afraid to talk about it because I was afraid of what these people could do to damage me and damage Walkaway. But also, I didn't want my followers to see me in that light. But when I would try to bring it up and try to talk about it, it was very obvious. I was instantly met like with this wall from my followers on social media, where they would say, handle it privately, stop the infighting, call this person on the phone and work it out. And I was like, I can't work it out. Like, you can't, when somebody's trying to like actively destroy you behind the scenes, you can't really work that out. And what I started to see back then was that there's this culture that takes place where if you're a person with bad intentions or some sort of negative interest, you can really flourish in the world of politics, because nobody's allowed to talk about what you're doing, because it's considered infighting or airing dirty laundry on your own side. So that's why so many bad people are allowed to do well, and why this is an industry, or if you want to call it that, where people can fail straight to the top, because we have a culture, at least in the conservative movement, where there's almost no accountability. You're not allowed to talk openly and honestly about what people are doing, about their integrity or their ethics or their character or anything like that. And this has gone on for years and years and years. And I think that we've reached a breaking point for a lot of people who, besides myself, who have lived with this, who have seen it, who have experienced it, who find it to be just completely intolerable at this point. I think that's one piece of it. But then I also think that Republicans and conservatives, we're never ahead of the game. We're always reacting to what the left is doing. We're always responding. We're always defensive. We're never offensive. We're always defensive. So because of that, we're always reacting from a place of desperation. We're always desperate. Everything is always, oh my God, the left is going to win. Oh my God, the left is going to win. What can we do? So when something bad happens and you try to talk about it, it's always shut up. We should be focusing on beating the left. We shouldn't be talking about this. And it's like, we shouldn't always be so desperate that we can't ever talk about the problems that exist in our movement. And by the way, right now, we have the Oval Office, we have the House, and we have the Senate. We shouldn't be desperate at all right now. We should be kicking ass and taking names, but we're not kicking out. Is it just you and me?
Yeah, you're fine. Vicky dropped, and I think Madeline dropped, because when someone drops, her sound gets weird. So they'll both be
So
back for
I
sure.
didn't drive them away. Okay.
No, not at all.
We should be kicking ass and taking names right now. But instead, as usual, even though we have the Oval Office, the House, and the Senate, we're still desperate. We're still panicking, absolutely panicking that we're going to get slaughtered in the midterms and all these terrible things are going to happen. So because of that panic and that reaction, the attitude is, don't say anything negative about Trump. Don't say anything negative about the administration unless you only have something nice to say. Keep your mouth shut. And unfortunately, this is not how people are feeling right now, because a lot of people are feeling like they did not get what they bargained for. A lot of people are feeling betrayed. A lot of people are feeling disappointed and let down, and they're expressing that. And when then they express that, all the panicky people are going, "Oh my God, what's the word? Like you're I can't think of the word, but you're a
Traitor.
yeah, traitor. That's the word. Thank you. Thank you. I kept
German.
hearing the word betray. Thank you. Yes, you're a traitor. You're a traitor. So this is why all of this is happening, or part of the reason.
Yeah, and
I
I
mean,
think that's like, sorry, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I just think it's like this is like the death phrase what they can call you in the whole MAGA movement. You are a traitor. It's like the same thing when the left calls us a racist or a Nazi or something. So you don't want to even be called like that, because what you gonna say against it? Like they say, oh, you question the whole MAGA thing, and so you are a traitor. No, I'm actually not. I'm just trying to understand where America first went. Because what is happening right now is not America first. Oh, it is because Trump is saying it. Okay, so everything what Trump says is now the holy scripture or something. Like this is kind of like the thing what I'm facing right now. I'm not American. Like I'm kind of see it from above, from another side, and I'm just say, okay, I actually like Trump's policies and everything, but right now I'm thinking, okay, what's going on? Like, what happened? What
Well,
phone
What
call
happened?
did he receive to totally shift?
but what also happened to, being transparent, accountability? I mean, at this point, I'm seeing polls for Trump at 99.9%. Like he has better polling than Kim Jong-un on some of these polls, and I'm very confused by it. Right? Like, it's not reality.
No.
And like you go on Fox, you're getting. And I've said this before on Angela's show. I never woke up. Nobody wakes up anti-Semitic. Just because I disagree with Mark Levin telling me I have to be all for boots on the ground. Listen, I have to go to multiple states, and I have candidates, I have people in the House that I have to get reelected. We have to answer to donors. And at the end of the day, how are we supposed to do that when by going boots on the ground, that means we literally have no chance of being America first? Because at the end of the day, that means interest rates are going to continue to rise. That means affordability is going to be even more so on the ballot, because gas prices, groceries, everything that people are struggling with. And then you have Trump just consistently trying to tell us, Kash Patel, they're all talking down to us, which is what we've always called the left on. I think really it's not, take away all of the stuff about Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk. I don't want to go down that road. I'm just talking about the fact that Kash Patel wanted to talk down to the Republicans who don't believe the government. When have we ever believed the government? Like, we've been screwed over for a decade. I thought that's what we ran on, by being transparent. And then it's like we're being talked down to by Trump now for saying like, hey, we just want some transparency. That is the message that these people on the ground are getting. And the fact is, the voters are struggling. They're exhausted. They're working 3 jobs. They don't know what they're going to do. They were promised a lot and they're not seeing it. And all they're seeing now is that we're going boots on the ground, or gas is going to go back up. And Mark Levin is like basically saying, hey, you're anti-Semitic if you don't agree. But listen, sorry about your energy bill and sorry about your groceries. Those are the things people like I have to deal with when I talk to the voters and I'm trying to get my candidates across the finish line.
Yeah, Madeline totally nailed it. 100%. Like I agree with that so much. And I also, that's part of what I said in my speech about like having untouchable groups. We're kind of entering into this really, well, not kind of, we're fully entering into this really dangerous territory now where, just like the left has sort of like used Black people and gay people and trans people as their Trojan horses to just sort of like shove their agendas forward, and no one's allowed to say anything. We're doing it right now with Jewish people. And this shouldn't need to be said, but apparently this is the time we live in. I love Jewish people. I have zero issues with Jewish people, but I'm sorry, like it's even, you can't have a negative opinion about entering Iran. You can't have a negative opinion about, like, without people. Now the right is doing this exact, just like the left says, oh, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're whatever. Now it's just, you hate Jews, you're a Nazi. And I'm like, I don't even understand how that makes any sense. Like, I'm not allowed to have an opinion about us striking Iran, or it means I hate Jews. And that's like kind of what we're doing right now. And people are sick of it. Like, how did the right become like this? It's insane.
Yeah, and then when you see all this what's popping up right now, like Trump says we probably need boots on the ground, and then you have Bibi Netanyahu says, oh yeah, but we won't bring someone on no boots on the ground. So literally America has to fight a war for other country, which they forced them into it. And we all remember the press conference from Rubio where he literally said that, okay, then everyone backed down and said, oh, no, we attacked first because they would have attacked us. So it's kind of like very interesting, this whole shift that you can't even say anything or question it anymore. And I think that's also not America first, it's Israel first. And then you have APAC, who is literally paying both sides, and the only politicians who are not paid by APAC are right now the bad guys like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Messi. Like,
well, and we're too
that should
busy
be very
calling
telling.
Massey out. We're too busy calling people out that actually vote conservative instead of actually passing a bill. Biden had passed over 136 bills by now. We've passed 36. And I'm sorry, but Massey really, he's not wrong. When people get their taxes back, the big beautiful bill wasn't that beautiful. We ran on being a small government and not liking the government in our lives. And that's exactly opposite of what the Republicans and the big beautiful bill stood for. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to attack the big beautiful bill. It passed and it's here, but that's why he's against Massey, which is really stupid. And that's what created all of this divide. And honestly, Massey was brilliant for running on the Epstein files because it was that group of people that didn't want it exposed. And thank God he did. Somebody should have ran on it.
You know, Madeline brought up polling too, and kind of, you know, made a joke about the 99% and, you know, Kim Jong Un and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that frightens me is that, okay, when I left the left and came over to the right 8 years ago, I was so excited. I felt like I had found the promised land, because I felt like I had found my people, where facts mattered again, the truth mattered again, where, you know, we could disagree without being disagreeable. We could, you know, have like conversations. I could learn things. And I am watching on the right as propaganda is fully taking hold of this significant swath of the base, because those very same polls that we're sitting here like laughing at, there are a lot of people who believe them. Like,
Yeah.
when I'm putting stuff out on social media, I'm having people drop in my comments and be like, do you know that 100% of MAGA agrees with Trump on the, and I'm like, wow, this works. Propaganda works. And like, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, there are people who will just believe what they read, and it's alarming.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, so great points all around. And so many connecting the dots between the three of you of all of what you said. You know, Vicky, you were talking earlier about people being frustrated. They voted America first, and that's not what they're getting. I know, Brandon, you've sort of been talking about the same thing, along with what Madeline said in terms of transparency and being sick of being lied to and just wanting the truth. So all around, I think it really speaks to the frustrations that the American people are feeling. Why is there such a disconnect, do you think, between what the American people, right? Because I think, you know, we were talking about, I think, you know, people who voted America first were feeling ignored for years and years and years, and then put their support in America first, wanting, like you said earlier, Vicky, no wars and the Epstein files and all of these things, and it's not happening. And I'm, you know, and then just being told everything's fine, and, you know, like like it's blatant lies. Like we have the facts, we have the the evidence in front of us, like about gas prices, inflation, like all this stuff. I guess why is there such a disconnect between what the American people are feeling and what is being prioritized politically? I guess is sort of the question. Why are political leaders sort of not even necessarily misreading, but not speaking to what the base really cares about?
Because the base doesn't paying the checks and the lobbyists are paying the checks.
Also, look who's around. I love President Trump. I love a lot of people in this administration, but at the same time, a lot of the people in this administration were put there by donors, and there's a lot of there's an echo chamber also happening inside the White House, and people will not tell him he's wrong. He's only hearing one side of things, and that's a real problem that we have. And it's going to hurt us again, because then you have also look at the endorsements. The endorsements coming out are very rhino. People thought Don Brown in North Carolina was gonna be endorsed, or all of a sudden Watley, who's like a huge rhino. We still don't know if Paxton will get the endorsement officially, or if he's gonna go with Cornyn in Texas. I mean, we have problems all around, but I think that personally, I think the warmongers and I think the rhinos and I think Israel knew if this was their time. If they were going to get in, this was it. And they've done a really good job at lobbying and pushing one direction. And our party has been through a lot in the last few years. And I just think they knew what cracks to really dive into.
And you see that with Joey Kent, like with his resigning, like that was very telling. Like he was 11 times deployed. He saw the war. He lost his first wife in the war. And then you have Trump saying, "Oh, see how fast he got a new wife." Like this is not the point. Why you should actually ask, why does this man who fought so long to get Trump elected, even went to being self-elected as an America First politician, why is it happening now that he resigned? That should be the question. And not that he is a traitor. No, you should literally ask, why did he resign? And that was because he didn't stand behind all this propaganda which was coming from Israel, and everyone knows it. Like, you can't tell me that you don't think that Israel is paying a lot of money to just have a little bit influence. No, they pay a lot of money to have a lot influence.
Well, I know we talk a lot about issues that should be front and center, things that we should be focused on. Is there anything that hasn't come up already that you guys would want to say about that, about where, the focus should be right now? What should be front and center for our country?
Yeah, a lot. Look, and I'm just speaking. I'm not speaking on behalf of the American people. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, but I know that I represent a lot of people who agree with me. Look, particularly with what I went through personally, I took for granted that like item high on Trump's agenda was going to be the de-weaponization of our Department of Justice, of our FBI, of our three-letter agencies. And not only is that not happening, and I'm sorry, but anyone out there listening, you're crazy if you believe that it is, because it isn't. And in fact, some of the architects of January 6th actually received promotions within the FBI. Almost nobody has lost their job. So for people who believe that, that's not true. It's really shocking. That to me, it was like a really, I just took for granted after everything that Trump went through himself, after the way he and the people around him campaigned on January 6th and what happened to the J6ers. I just assumed. And then, there's a number of other things too. I mean, this isn't like an issue or a policy or anything like that, but after Biden took office, we went through 4 really scary years where it just seemed like it was kind of open season on conservatives, where tech platforms, tech giants, could deplatform, debank, cancel, ban people. And I think the person who is almost like an archetype or a figurehead for doing that is Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, he's one of the top people who deplatformed Trump's biggest supporters, and none of those people have been replatformed. And now he's like got in a position, like he's like in the administration. Not to mention the fact that not to mention that he was given a front row seat at the inauguration. And to be honest with you, like that to me on day one was when I started to feel really strongly like, oh boy, I wonder if this may not be what I think it's going to be. Because I believed that Trump was such like kind of a rogue rebel and a badass. I actually thought he was like going to invite J6ers to the inauguration. And like I thought he was like going to put him right there in the front row and be like, this administration is going to be different. Instead, he brought Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, is this going to be like the administration of like billionaires and tech giants and people who, yeah,
Yeah, and then you don't have Fauci persecuted.
Oh,
Don't
The next
go.
one.
Like I could go down that road all day.
Yeah, but that's it. Like they made this huge website. Everyone was like, "Yeah." When he said, "Oh, that's what actually happened," and with the Wuhan laboratory and how the virus got actually out, and the connection from Fauci with China and all that stuff. But and then in the end, nothing happened to him. Like, why do you even put it out then and don't do anything? It's like stopping in the middle of the road. Like it's nonsense. It's crazy.
I'll tell you, my final day was where I started just speaking out too, was with accountability, was Christine Bish, who went after Adam Schiff for mortgage fraud, is one of my clients who's running in California. And the weaponization case with that, they were starting to build a case against, I went there, we went to Maryland Greenbelt, and they started building a conspiracy case against Christine Bish, Bill Pulte, and Ed Martin. And now Ed Martin has basically been kicked out of the DOJ. And he didn't even do anything. What they accused all of us doing, I literally looked at the FBI and I said to them in front of everybody before the grand jury, and I said, I'm confused. Are you building a conspiracy case against my client, or are we here to talk about the Schiff evidence? I mean, I'm sorry. I thought we were going to fix the FBI. I thought we were going to talk about transparency, accountability. And now the only people who are actually getting persecuted are Republicans that are actually fighting for and being whistleblowers. Don't be a whistleblower, because you're not going to get protection. You're not going to see accountability, and you're just going to put yourself there on the line. And it's really sad. Like that was where I was just like, I'm disgraced by the whole thing. There's all these stories about the FBI, Charlie Kirk, all the other. That's all great. That's all a lot. I'm talking about just firsthand experience.
Yep.
And that's, once you have these over and over again firsthand experiences, you just walk away and you just feel so defeated, because this was not Trump 1. Trump 2 and Trump 1, completely different people, completely different vibe. You don't know the answers. You actually know the answers you're going to get, actually, which is sad. You just know you're not going to hear what you want to hear in Trump 2 right now if you're going to the White House and asking for something. And that's what makes me sad, because a lot of people are working really hard. There's been a lot of money, a lot of time invested into all of these campaigns and into the MAGA movement, all for what? Us to just let it all go up in flames for some stupid war? Like, I'm out. I don't want it. If that's what this all was for, then I'm out.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, I'll be very brief. I hate to hear like the way that Madeline's feeling, but at the same time, like I swear to God, in like I almost feel like a weight is being lifted off my shoulders, because there are so many times where I spent many months feeling like I was the only person feeling this way. And I mean, really just being like, this enormous burden that I felt like I was carrying. And it's so funny, Angela, because it's exactly like when I left the left. I mean, when I left the left, I had to kind of like tiptoe around and sort of like be like, hey, are you starting to think the left is kind of crazy too? And like, hey, like, what do you think about this like white privilege, and like, I find myself, months ago, kind of like whispering to, like, are you starting to feel kind of, and people are like, yes, oh my God, yes. And like now, finally, I think it's starting to, maybe that's the good thing about striking Iran. Like, finally, people are just like, oh my God, to hell with it. I'm just going to say how I really feel. Like, this is crazy. But it's heartbreaking and it's super depressing. And I look back and I'm like, I went to jail standing up for this person. I had my name and my reputation destroyed
Yeah.
standing up for this. And I'm like, for this?
Yeah.
For this? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been years. I think my big thing, and this goes back to people like Brand, all of us who put time, energy, and invested everything in it. I just feel like we are the people that have to deal with the voters on the ground. We're the ones that if we lose midterms, they're going to come to us and be like, it's on you that you lost midterms. But really, they've given us nothing to work with for midterms either. That's my whole thing is I'm very optimistic. I'm not a Democrat at all. I will always be conservative. I'm raised right from day one. However, I'm just not this far right. I love Thomas the first things first was I love Thomas Massey. I'm from Kentucky. I'm never going to go against Massey. I was invited to the Kentucky, for Ed, that whole thing a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't going to go. I'm loyal to Massey. I think what they're doing to him is horrible. And it's, especially if you look at his voting record, you don't see him attacking Kevin Kiley. Kevin Kiley just played charades in a game and shopped districts for like 3 months and then moved to a district, kicked all the Republicans out of it, only to go become an independent and now is caucusing with Democrats. Like, why don't you attack him? Why are we attacking somebody that votes 90% Republican?
Right.
I'm so confused. This is not the Republican America First movement that we all have worked so hard for. And that's why I'm like, we have to speak up. My views are not my clients' views, they're mine. But a lot of people on the ground are happy to hear it because they're exhausted. People on the ground are exhausted, and especially the voters. And I don't know how we have to keep being uplifting because we got to get them to the vote. We have to get them to the polls.
Yeah, that's a tough feat. That's a tough task when you're feeling exhausted and burnout and frustrated and all of that and angry. I was just going to say that's why it's so important that you guys are talking. I appreciate your honesty, and it is so important, Brandon, for you to be like to give your speech and to speak your true feelings, because some people aren't speaking up and are scared to say it. And so you're opening that door for them that they can connect with you. And they're like, oh my gosh, like you said, they're not alone. We're not alone. So it is so important, even though it does take a lot of courage and it's not easy to do. It's very difficult. That's why most people don't do it. But because you're doing it, it's paving the way for other people and making them feel more at ease to do the same. So I think that's so important. Because I think the more you do, you hear other people's stories who are feeling very similarly to you. There's a reason why people are, the word uniparty is coming up and people are just, it's all the same. We don't care anymore. Like, and losing hope. So how do you keep that hope alive?
Well, I'm sure Brandon and I'm sure Vicky and I'm sure everyone's just as frustrated with certain influencers, certain voices in the mega movement right now, because, they're the ones that are also, I always tell influencers, like, you're not helping things by just giving your 2 cents online and giving like a quick comment on TikTok. And then you never do anything. Like, you're only making the administration thinking that this is going to go on and we're on good terms. It's not. And if you actually talk to the people doing work, we're hearing a lot from people on the ground, and it's everyone across the board is tired and they're not giving us anything to work with by going boots on the ground. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
What about, I have a few questions that are just, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Sort of, kind of where we're at, like, what is the path forward? I think, as we're more speaking up and connecting and So it's kind of more, yeah, what are other things that we can do moving forward? What's next? How can we engage in political conversations without contributing to division? I think is a tough one. I mean, I feel like we're able to do that in here, but other people aren't necessarily able to do that. So some people won't even have the conversations to begin with, right? So I don't know, just some interesting, I guess, food for thought. And for people who are feeling politically homeless right now, which I think there are more of them than people realize. The more conversations I have with people, even friends who were, on the left, and like the more I talk with some of them, the more I realize, oh, what they are feeling that way as well. So for those people who are, like we said, kind of lost hope, or feeling like, oh, what's the point? Everyone's the same, because it's such a two-party system. Like, what are the options? They don't trust anyone anymore, right? We're all feeling sort of that, with the lack of transparency and accountability. People are out of touch with how Americans are feeling, affordability, the economy, the real everyday issues, as everyone here has been speaking to. So it's like, where do we go from here? Where do we start for people who are feeling this way, that are feeling politically homeless, fed up, don't trust anyone, they're politically stuck? Any thoughts on that? I know it's not really.
Well, the first thing I would respond is, and I mean, sorry, it probably sounds really black-pilled sort of to people, but I mean, I think the first question for me is, who is we? When you say, where do we go from here, or what do we do? My first question is, who is we anymore? Because, when I've been kind of like deep diving this divide that's happening right now, I keep saying it's not only ideological, it's also generational. Um, so my parents, who are in their 70s, are very informed people, in the sense that, like, they care deeply about politics. Every day, they watch Fox News and Newsmax for at least several hours a day. They spend a lot of the day scrolling on Facebook and reading stories, but that's their bubble. Their bubble is Fox News, Newsmax, Facebook, etc. So months ago, when I went to my mom and I said, hey, what do you think about this big divide that's happening with like Tucker and Mark Levin and Israel and stuff? She was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh my God, like you don't even know what I'm talking about. And she was like, no. And so I got my parents on X, and they were like, like they like had no clue any of this was going on. And then all of a sudden they're weighing in on it. And, my mom was like, you never criticize Israel. Oh my God, no. And I'm going, by the way, we're a Catholic family, like we're not Jewish, and I'm like, well, I don't understand that. Like, explain that to me, and stuff. And so we started to see, like, I started to see really clearly the generational divide. And if you're a boomer, I mean, boomers were basically raised to believe, without question, Israel is the Holy Land. It is a special and spiritual place. It is beyond reproach. You don't question it. It is basically, if you question Israel, you're basically spitting in the face of God, is how they feel. And anyone under the age of 30, but I would maybe even be willing to say maybe up to 40 or 50, that's not where they are. And so, people are almost acting like, oh, well, we've just got to, figure some stuff out, and then everyone's going to come together. Like, this is deep. It's really, really deep. And I almost feel like it doesn't get fixed. And if I were to look into my crystal ball, I think what happens next is that there's a new movement that happens in this country, and it's very youth based. And I'm not even saying that's necessarily great or, whatever, but I think that there's going to be a big divide that happens with people like 40 or 35 and under. I'm going to be a part of it, even though I'm older than that, but like, that's just kind of where I am. And I think that they're going to completely disregard like the boomer generation and the old guard and the way politics is done. I don't think that they have any allegiance to the government. I don't think they have any, like, they view things totally differently. And I think their attitude is like, burn it all down. Who cares? I mean, I don't know. And maybe that's just kind of where we are.
So
Well, and
the
I've said
Libertarian
this.
Party. will
I've
rise
said
then.
this to you, Angela. Like, why would young people, why would they care about their credit score if they never have a chance to buy a house? We'll just see people filing chapter 13, chapter 13, chapter 7s for reorganizing or filing bankruptcy and racking up a bunch of debt, because at the end of the day, that's where young people see it. They're like, I'm never going to be able to buy a house. I'll never be able to do this. Now with AI and all these tech oligarchs always talking about AI, Larry Ellison, just 30,000 people were just cut from their jobs today, or from Oracle. That's a lot of people right around graduation time. So, again, our system is failing young people. Fishback can be controversial, but I look at people like Fishback being somewhat of a blueprint for young people. You look at, I've been saying this for a long time, Candace Owens and Fuentes, you can't discount. They have a huge following. So when you've got the Mark Levins, you've got all the boomer, Fox News people calling these two people out. Well, they have millions of followers. Those millions of followers are voters, and they follow them hard. So it's like, what are we doing? And that's what those people like James Fishback are tapping into. I will say this, if I saw mega hats, it was all excited young people who were there. And those were the people that are like not crazy radicals on the whole one side, but they're not going to go, they don't want to be preached to at the Turning Point either, because Turning Point's gone pretty religious. And I'm Catholic. Listen, I grew up Catholic. I understand it, but I don't want to go to these, none of us go to conferences to be like preached to. We go to conferences to see our friends, to get empowered, to get inspired, to get activated. That's what being at a conference is, like, to get activated as an activist and as somebody that wants to be a part of a movement. And I think we're going to have to find that balance. And I also see some of the masses, I see the rise of the Tea Party coming back, and maybe the young people kind of mixing with that crowd. If there's a chance of those generations, I think it will be like a Tea Party movement more than a far right movement.
Very interesting. Well, we have, a lot of times on the show said, burn it all down. Like, like we're all, a lot of us are kind of feeling in that place. So I'm kind of, I don't know, somewhat on board. And another thing we talk about a lot is the, being fed up with all of the leaders being like older and out of touch. So I can see the young people, frustration with that too. When we talk about AI, like, our leadership doesn't even have a grasp on that at all.
Right.
Not up on anything tech and what we're really facing, and what people are, the real fears and concerns and issues.
Well, how can young people be excited for AI or UBI when we can't figure out healthcare? Our government's been shut down. People haven't been paid for months on end. So I'm sorry if I don't want the young people to be on UBI, because then we're just going to set them up to be broke, poor, not getting paid, because that's what happens when a government shuts down. So yeah, I'm sorry if the tech oligarchs tell us all to get excited. That's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing young people get radicalized and working to figure out how to burn it down and say, screw this, I'm starting over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and on the topic of AI too, it might be a different story if the messaging from the people developing it and the people who are being put in positions by the administration to sort of monitor it and regulate it or develop it or what have you, had almost an air of like compassion about it. But you just see all of these billionaires being put in charge of how our government is eventually going to deal with AI. And they kind of have this like, oh, soon we won't even need workers. Soon robots will be doing everything. And I'm like, this is terrifying. I'm not glad you're the person in charge.
Yeah.
And of course, it's never going to touch you or anyone you know. I mean, you have more money than God. But it's like, I say all the time, I'm like, I'm not young and I'm concerned about it. And I can only imagine how I would feel if I were 22 or 23 or whatever. And I think about, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like it was always like, oh, if you get a graphic design degree, the world is your oyster. You're going to be able to do anything you want to do. We're not even going to need graphic designers. Like, in 5 minutes, or and this, like, pretty soon we're not even going to be able to keep up with the number of occupations and professions that we don't need anymore. It's gonna be like we don't need this anymore, we don't need this anymore. Yeah.
But I was going to say, Brandon, but you also brought up like all of the propaganda, like on X, you have to really look if your grok. X is the best part is the grok to see if it's actually confirming this story is real. I don't know what's real anymore and what's not. And it's actually really scary.
Yeah.
I can't get on Facebook and like actually pay attention to things. I have to be on X because I need to make sure it's accurate. Because some of it is being used as propaganda. There's videos from like 5 years ago, 9/11, and they're like throwing it in here, or like the Ukraine-Russia war, and they're acting like it's Israel and Iran. Like, but here's the thing, for everybody else, that can move markets. If the wrong person retweets it, it's over. Like, it can move an entire market. So yeah, I think AI, there's not a lot of security. AI is scaring the shit out of young people. And they didn't want to go back and talk about the pandemic, but look at the numbers. When people don't work, addiction goes up, crime rate goes up, and all of the tech oligarchs have all said that they do see unrest in the streets due to some of the issues that are going to be. They said there will be adjustments. If you watch podcasts and go on the deep dive, it's pretty scary actually. What they say.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when you look into the World Economic Forum, when they meet in Davos, they are like literally having summits about AI, and they're literally saying the same phrases like the administration of Trump is using right now. AI will be the future. We won't need those people anymore to work. We just have to figure out a way how we keep them occupied, like putting them into 15-minute cities and let them sit in front of their PlayStation all the time or something. Like, this is not only a very frightening thing, it's also a very globalist way to think. And after having Trump always saying, oh, we don't follow the globalists, we're gonna just focus on America and keep the American workers back to power, and will increase the economy. And literally, he's now trying to replace everyone with AI. And then you have Melania walking down the aisle with this little robot. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to show another part of Brandon's speech for those of you who didn't get a chance to see it.
Back on that time when I desperately needed friends, allies, and support, the two men of highest stature within the movement who did not close their doors on me, who had me on their shows and gave me a platform and a voice when I needed it the most, were Mark Levin and Tucker Carlson. And now I'm being told I must choose between these two men. I'm either Team Mark, which according to one group would make me a warmongering neocon and a shill for Israel, or I'm Team Tucker, which according to another group would make me a rabid, Jew-hating anti-Semite, cried all the people with their torches and pitchforks. None of these assertions are true. And the truth still needs to matter more than slandering people's characters to win political arguments. So no, I will not be choosing between Mark Levin and Tucker Carlson. I love them both. And both of them have political ideas that I strongly disagree with. And both of them have controversial beliefs that I support. And regardless of both of those things, they are both good and decent men. And just as I walked away from a movement that tried to demand my submission, conformity, and silence, nobody on the right is ever going to tell me what I have to think or believe or who I'm allowed to be friends with. I would rather walk away. I'd rather lose everything I have, again, than go along to get along with a mob that no longer cares about the truth, because that's what strong men do. Weak men choose anger and hate and destruction. And may I remind you, God is truth and love.
Wow, that really spoke to, what you were saying earlier, I think, about how you were feeling when you walked away from the Democratic Party. It kind of came up there, and that
Yeah.
speech of those kind of echoing, those sentiments and feelings of where you're at. And it's really sad. It's really sad to, to see that, that you're in that place again. And I mean, what a concept, right? Like, why can't you choose for yourself? And why do you have to choose? Why can't, um, yeah, you should be able to make that
Well,
choice for yourself.
Angela, yeah, and we kind of touched on this earlier. I mean, I think part of what I'm feeling right now, um, is this like sense of real, like it's deeper. I can't come up with the right word, but it's deeper than disappointment. For days I've been trying to come up with the right word. Um, that that the right was just not what I thought it was. That I thought that I had found this place where like people behaved differently, but it's, just like when I left the left, and I'm sure you would agree. I mean, you did leave the left, right? Like, okay, you left the left, yeah. Because it got to the point where we couldn't disagree on like issues or policies,
Mhm.
or like it became personal. It was, if
Mhm.
you disagree with this issue, it's because you're a bad person,
Yep.
and because you are a bigot and you hate people and
You're
you
a
all this thing.
monster. Yeah.
Totally. And now we're at this point where you can't just say, hey, I really strongly disagree with our decision to strike Iran, or I don't think that we should be involved in this war, or, whatever it is. There's something much deeper attached to that. And the point I was trying to make, it wasn't about like, because I had a few people say to me like, oh, way to ride the fence, and oh, you didn't take a side, like you don't have courage or whatever. I was like, Nick, you're not getting it. I'm not up there saying like, oh, I can't choose between Mark and Tucker. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I can disagree with both of them
Mhm.
without it becoming personal. Without it becoming that like, oh, you hate Jews, or oh,
Yeah.
or oh, you just love going to war and seeing soldiers die. Like, I know for a fact that they're both good men. I know them personally. Do I agree with everything that they believe or their political stances? No, but it doesn't mean they're bad people, and that is where we've devolved to that on the right now.
Angela knows. I mean, I feel like when we come on and certain people are on here and you have me on, I feel like when the topic comes up, everyone's waiting for me to kind of say something, because I'm not afraid to just be like, I disagree with like this part of the whole going to war with Israel, or I don't feel like there's transparency. I hate that like we do have people who have such great platforms, but they feel in order to stay based, they feel in order to keep their following or whatever it is, that they have to like ride this coattail. So I feel like a couple months ago when I started coming on here, I just was like, Trump didn't own that. I think everyone knows, like, we all love Trump. He's like the grandpa you want to have a Diet Coke with, right? And talk shit with. He's great. But at the same time, like, nobody thinks Trump is like not a ladies' man. Like, you didn't vote for Trump because he's like this great guy and like never would cheat on a wife. Like, you don't take that into consideration when you're voting for a president, right? I think the best policy would have been for Trump and them to own the Epstein files, just own it. And so, when I felt that way and I felt that pressure that was coming on, that's when I started coming on here with you. And when everyone would be like, okay, let Madeline say what she's gonna say. Sure, I'll own it. Like, I'm not thrilled about the Israel, like going to war for Israel, especially when they won't put boots on the ground and match the energy. There's certain things I don't love happening, but I will never like turn my back on Trump. I'm not going to turn my back on this administration. I just think there's things we could all do better. And I think the best thing is we should all start owning it and stop being afraid to say how hard we've all worked and how much we love being conservative or Republican or whatever you are. Why are you in this movement? That's what I ask people. Like, why are you here? Like, what is your point? For why, like, what makes you based? Because I can give you 100 reasons that I'm based, whether they're basic bitch or not. Like, I can give them to you, you know? But that's the thing is, like, if you're only based because of like something ridiculous, then you've become a part of an echo chamber. And that's how the left became an echo chamber. And I've been saying this a long time. The far left, you can't come back from that. And it takes losing a lot. We've gone really far right. And if you meet in the middle, you kind of get Israel. But it's due to donors, it's due to lobbyists, yes. But it's really sad because Trump tried to stay away from that in the first, in his first administration. I don't know how we've gotten this far, like, into an echo chamber. It's unfortunate.
Well, and Madeline, I'll add to what you're saying about being based because a lot of people need this message and don't know. It is never based to allow anybody, let alone the president of the United States, to dictate everything that you think and believe and how you behave. And I like one of the first examples I started to see of the hive mind on the right, when I just thought of this as we were sitting here talking. So in January of 24, Vivek Ramaswamy invited me to go to Iowa and ride his bus with him for a day and go on campaign stops. Now, this would have been very shortly before the Iowa caucus. Maybe it was in February. I can't remember. Anyway, it was early 2024. And so, of course, I said yes. I mean, like, why would you ever say no to an opportunity like that? Someone running for president. And I like Vivek. I think he's cool. And so I said yes. And I spent the day with him and we rode the bus. And I got to know him kind of personally. He was super nice to me. And it was just a really great experience. And the Iowa caucus was only like a day or two later. It was very shortly after that. And leading up to the caucus, he had this little surge in the polls. It wasn't major and he wasn't doing like extremely well, but it was like he had a pop. And I think something happened where Trump felt a little threatened by that. And so Trump put out a message saying Vivek is not MAGA. He's not one of us. He's not. And I watched all of these people in an instant start attacking Vivek and be like, I never liked Vivek. I always knew he was a snake. I always knew he was bad. He's not MAGA. He's not MAGA. He's not one of us. And I was like, I just spent the day with this guy. He was so nice. He was so genuine. He was so I was watching all of these people just turn on him the second that directive went out. But guess what? Then the Iowa caucus happened. He didn't do that well. And I think it was only a day or two later, he dropped out of the race completely. And as soon as he dropped out of the race, now this is only like 3-4 days after Trump put the post out saying he's not MAGA, he's not one of us. Trump puts out another post. Way to go, Vivek. You ran a great race. Can't wait to have you be a part of my administration, whatever. Those same people who 3 or 4 days ago turned on him were all like, way to go, Vivek. You did a hell of a campaign. Can't wait to have you. And I was like, this is a joke. This is a joke.
Well, and honestly, the whole time Vivek ran, he wouldn't say one bad thing about Trump. Like, everybody would give shit to Trump for not showing up to the debates or whatever. And I remember Vivek, it was like he was there as a spokesperson for Trump. So I kind of remember this. And then that whole thing happened. And I think Trump was like, wait, is Vivek thinking because he's up in the polls? Like, do I need to just throw a dig real quick? And it goes back to also, like, what about Ben Shapiro, Josh Hammer, all of the people that supported Ron DeSantis would never support Trump. Can you imagine if I came out, or any of my candidates that are running, and wanted Ron DeSantis to be president or come up in the polls right now over who Trump nominates? Never. He would never accept it, right? But why? Like, Ben Shapiro and all of those people, they were never Trumpers. Up until Ron DeSantis tanked it in his first presidential run, they all were for DeSantis. So it's crazy to me that he's been allegiant to them throughout this whole time because they wanted Ron DeSantis to win.
Yeah. Yep.
I just want to remind everyone, and this is not about Israel. This is just about the divide between the DeSantis camp and the Trump camp.
No, I get it. I totally get it. I mean, it's illogical. There's no rhyme or reason for who gets forgiven and who doesn't get forgiven. Or maybe there is a reason. I don't know. But yeah, no, I mean, it seems very arbitrary and illogical, but it's that was one of the first early examples a few years ago of me starting to really see that hive mind take form, and I think it's just been a slow unraveling since then.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
that's
mean, go ahead, Vicky. Sorry.
Yeah, but that's the same with the gas prices right now. When you have Pete Hegseth saying in his in his press conference, "Oh, you have to suffer a little bit, but think, hey, Europe is suffering more, so that's okay." Like everyone is cheering on it, but nobody's actually questioning. Okay, why do we have to have $4 per gallon? And then when you see the newest post from Trump today, is Europe has to take care of their own oil on their own to take back the Strait of Hormuz because we have so much oil. Okay, if America has so much oil, why is the American people suffering with so a high gas prices? Why can't you just get it out? You even have all the oil from Venezuela now, so you literally should not have any problems with having a gallon for $150, 1.50. So, but everyone is still cheering because you can't question the Messiah, kind of. So, and then you have also the Christian, Christian people, the evangelists, who's saying, "Oh, this war is uh, sent by God," or they even, yeah, it's the next crusade. Like that's insane. Why do you even connect this when you
See,
then yeah, and then you question Islamists and jihadists coming to your country, yelling Allah Yakbar and throwing bombs everywhere, raping children and grooming gangs, and literally want to taking over your country with Sharia law. So you don't like that, but then you have other people saying, "Oh, the Iran war is in the name of Jesus Christ." Like it's kind of hypocrisy.
yes, but I think that again speaks to the generational piece of this. It's not exclusively that, but so much of that is generational. And like you said something about, I don't remember the example you used a second ago, but it was something like, basically, oh, well, don't look at this bad thing over here because, oh, look how great the economy is or whatever. That is not resonating at all with young people, like not at all. And like, I actually had a boomer say to me the other day, oh, you want to bring up this Epstein thing? You want to bring up this? Have you looked at your 401k lately? And I was like, that is such a boomer thing to say. Like, that is so, like, and that is not resonating at all with anybody under 30. Like, I feel like maybe in 1.0, Trump 1.0, it was kind of like, oh, but the economy's booming and whatever. But this idea now that we're just going to overlook atrocities that are happening because my 401k is up. It doesn't land anymore. It just doesn't. Like it's not working.
Well, it's unfortunate because it's everything that the Democrats said we are, and everything the Democrats basically ran on and said about Trump, I keep trying to defend, and that's where we have to be really careful because he's kind of living up to certain things that they said, and it's hard to deflect because you're like, oh, what do I do here? Like, you're right. Like they will match statement for statement. And so it's really unfortunate. And I agree with the boomers. Everybody, in my opinion, with the boomers, when they hear Iran, they think of this like, they act like it's a resort. They're like, it's like, they can't wait to go back on vacation. I'm like, listen, we've been bombing the shit out of Iran. You will be dead before Iran is ever this hot spot to travel to again. So like, maybe you just like shouldn't be worried about Iran going back to this really great place because I don't foresee it. Like, it's just not going to happen. And honestly, peace in the Middle East, I'd rather invest in peace in my country than invest in a place that we've never seen peace. It's more broken than America, and America's super broken right now. So yeah,
sure.
No, it doesn't work.
Did you see that comment someone posted? The Dow was at 50,000.
Yeah, but the Dow's at 50,000, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Dow's 50,000.
Well, it's like when Trump's like, yeah, the Trump account's great. Well, like these people can't even afford to like feed their families. A lot of them are going to like food banks, like especially during winter in the colder states. I was hearing all about energy prices and how no one can afford to pay their energy and go to the grocery. These are what candidates and the people in the House and in the Senate that want to get reelected, this is what they have to go answer to. And it's really unfortunate because then it's people like all of us who are on the ground, you know, and doing the hard work. We're all sitting here being asked statements, and then the Atlantic will get you like, and you know, I'm like, yeah, you're right. The Maha movement, it's about the only thing America First left. Like that's where we're at right now. Thank God for RFK.
Yeah, but then you have Kennedy also praising the Iran war and the military complex, which actually killed his uncle and his father. So
yeah,
that's
I mean,
kind
I
of like a weird
the
take.
coalition. The people get mad at Trump. Like where I think the one thing about Maha Coalition, which I say, is they don't let Trump get away with like, you know, they don't like the pesticides being sprayed. Like they don't let Trump get away with things where the America First movement years ago, we would have never let this administration get away with it. We would have been attacking them all day long. But then again, Trump never would have said a lot of the things, and this administration was not anywhere near what the first administration and first campaign was like.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, you know, brought up a lot of just out of touch, tone deaf things that are being said, that are happening. And I think people are getting fed up. They're frustrated. It's been a big theme of tonight. And Brandon, I appreciate you giving that example, you know, just of the hive, you know, mentality thing. And like, because, yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know, you know, it's just for people to not be able to, you know, see things. And so it's extremely frustrating, and it's happening on both sides for sure, because it's been happening on the left. It's something that I've been extremely frustrated and talking about for a long time now. And my friends continue to double down on the things that, and it feels sometimes like you're, you know, bashing your head into a wall. And I just like don't even want to, I mean, I want to have the conversations, but people are not willing to really listen and think for themselves. And it's frustrating for sure. So I want to make sure, there were some nice comments. There's been a lot of comments. Thank you guys so much in the chat. It's been obviously a really real and bold and talk, but there was obviously a lot of, you know, praise for your speech, Brandon. So I just want to go back a little bit, and because I didn't get to point some of those out, but mic drop, bravo on the speech.
Thank you.
Brandon setting them straight. You're a leader, Brandon. A lot of all of that. And thank you guys for interacting in the chat. Thank you for tuning in. And I mean, yeah, I just appreciate you guys so much, because, you know, that's is another thing that frustrates me about my friends, you know, on the left and stuff, is that they won't even watch my live streams, to be honest, anymore, because they just assume that because people are more conservative, you know, because as Madeline knows, and we've talked about, a lot of people on the left won't come on and have the conversations. But we try to have people from all different backgrounds and perspectives, and more moderate, and, you know, whatever, all over the place. I try as much as possible. But there's just a lot of assumptions that get made, you know, like, oh, so I appreciate this conversation so much, because it's an example of how, even if you're on the right or you're conservative or wherever you are, you can call out anyone, right? Like, I think they assume that, oh, they all love Trump and think everything that he does is great, and they're going to defend it. And that's not true. Like, if you think about this conversation, you know, I appreciate your candidness and your honesty about what's going on in the party. And I wish that, you know, people would listen and hear this. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people won't, that need to hear it.
Well,
you know?
yeah. And honestly, if I could say to that point, because there are a lot of people out there who feel very strongly that if you say things like this out loud, it can only be, I can't tell you the number of times I'm getting told lately that I am being paid to sow division. Somebody's obviously paying you to sow division. And in fact, I mean, people can believe it or not. And I feel like people who would make comments like that maybe aren't even smart enough to understand. But like, I'm saying what I'm saying, and I'm actually going to speak for the ladies on the panel here too, because I'm sure they'll agree. The reason we're talking about this is because we care so much that we actually want it to get better, and that like we don't want things to be this way. And like, if we just shut our mouths and pretend like everything's okay, that's literally like the quickest way that we're absolutely going to get slaughtered in November and like never be able to recover. Because this is exactly what happened in 2016. The left created this environment where nobody was allowed to speak up and be like, I'm starting to wonder if like maybe Trump might win or whatever. And everyone's like, shut up. And then lo and behold, Hillary gets crushed, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, we didn't see this coming. What happened?" It's like, yeah, you created an environment where no one could talk, and like no one could tell the truth, and then you got your asses handed to you. And we're actually trying to do the talking now so that we don't get our asses handed to us later. That's what's happening.
Yeah, learning from past examples and situations. I really appreciate that. It's true. Just because you don't say it doesn't go away. Like it's still there. It's just you're not talking about it, which is worse, way worse.
Yeah.
Well, it's so much harder too for people like Brandon, people like Vicky, people like myself, people like you who are out there talking to people, whether you're talking to voters, donors, candidates, people in the House, people in the Senate. Like we have to answer to people too. And like the problem is when if I have to sit there and lie and defend and defend and defend, eventually I'm gonna look like the fraud. Even if I don't believe what I'm saying, I just can't do it anymore. And that's where when I started coming on here a few months ago, and everyone was like, "Okay, Madeline will say it." I never was one of those people that would be like on the fringe and want to go so far away. It's not that. I can't keep defending things because I'm on the ground. Then all these people will find one snippet of me saying something, and I sit there and I'm empathetic to them because they're right. Like I can't defend it anymore. Like they've got the administration, the echo chamber. Somebody's got to get in there and say something. And if they don't care, then I don't want to hear that anything from the administration why we lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the thing is, me as a journalist, it's not my job to be the propaganda unit of any one of the sides. Like I report what's going on, and right now it's literally going on not very well. And what I think it's very funny when people say, "Oh, you from Germany and you live here in the United States. Why don't you just leave when you don't like it?" So, like, I'm a U.S. correspondent. Like, it's my job to report what's going on, and it's not like that I bash Trump every day, but I question him. And when you're already getting booed out and sent back home, only for questioning something, then it's kind of like North Korea kind of style.
And not to bring up Jack Posobiec again, but I know he was there at CPAC, so I'll throw it out. I just saw an interview where a guy was attacking him because Jack had said he didn't want boots on the ground, and then Jack was having to defend. Jack was trying to stick to the lines of like, well, we're there now. That's what he said, because he doesn't know what do you do? That's what people don't understand. If you're out there doing the hard work, and I'm defending Jack on this, he wants to defend the president. He wants to defend the administration. But he also never thought we would get to this point because we didn't run on this. So it's a really tough spot that we are all in. And that instance that went viral earlier where I saw a guy going at Jack, that's what I'm talking about. That's why it's so important that we just own it and we talk about it, because we can't keep going down this road because the people on the ground our backs are up against a wall. We're not going to keep lying.
Right.
Well, I appreciate all of you for that. And, I it's been important to me to do the same thing like on the left and speak my truth. And obviously there's a lot of unhappy people about that. But you gotta, I don't know, I agree. I think it's so much better to be yourself, live authentically. I don't really see personally any alternative to that. Like we got, one life, and I feel like it's important to speak our truths and get it out there. And when you do that, other people connect to it, as we've seen with Brandon's speech, everything we've been talking about. So we're not doing anyone any favors by being quiet and being silent. It doesn't make things go away.
No.
It's, I think, as you all do, to raise awareness and attention to things and try to offer solutions and learn from past mistakes. And that all seems like a better way forward than ignoring things, sweeping under the rug, staying quiet. It, like we've been saying, it doesn't make it go away. So I appreciate all of you for that, because it does take strength. It does. It's a difficult position to be in. And I can see that everyone, here is passionate about it. And I hope that inspires and motivates other people to do the same, so that hopefully we can get to a better place with all of this. So that wouldn't happen either if you all weren't here. So I appreciate you so, so much. And just want to give you a chance to shout anything out to the amazing crowd here. Brandon, everyone follow Brandon and the Walkaway campaign on all the socials. Brandon, is there anything that you want to promote or tell anyone or everyone?
I guess only that one thing I'm really excited about, my team and I have been working on for several months, is a lot of people know that Walkaway started as a Facebook group, and hundreds of thousands of people join, and we at this point have well over 100,000 testimonials that people have either submitted their Walkaway videos or a written testimonial. And so we have like tens of thousands of written testimonials that have always just lived on the Facebook group, because obviously it's hard to share a written post off platform somewhere else. Well, we now have discovered this really incredible way to take those written walkaway stories and make them into videos. We've made like little short films out of all of them, using a combination of animation, AI, photographs, video, and you really have to see it to understand, but they're unbelievable. I mean, honestly, I think they're like the best things we've ever done. They're so, so good. And at this point, we've created 11 or 12 of them, and we're going to start releasing them in about the middle of April. So be looking out for them. And like, I would not be making this big a deal out of it if I didn't truly know in my gut that people are going to think they're amazing. They're amazing. So we're calling them the United Stories of America by Walkaway, and they're going to be coming out mid-April. They're amazing. So be on the lookout, and please share them, watch them, and share them. They're really, 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 really good.
I'm so excited. Yeah, you mentioned that last time we talked, and I'm really excited to watch. So that's really cool. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Madeline, everyone follow Madeline, the Madeline Liz. Anything you want to shout out, Madeline?
Nope. I'm so grateful, for Brandon's speech. I loved it. Love having you in here and seeing you, Angela. And Vicky, it's good to see you again. I finally got to see you in person the other day, so it was fun. It's always fun.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad. I noticed, Madeline, that you shared Brandon's speech. So I was like, oh, I hope I can get them together, because that would be such a cool conversation. And it really was. So I'm so glad.
It was so nice to meet you both, Vicky and Madeline. Great to meet you.
Yes.
Yeah. Vicky, everyone follow Vicky. Vicky, you always have a lot going on. Documentaries, things, anything you want to shout out, promote?
What I would want to shout out is, first of all, a thank you to Brandon for his amazing speech, and for being that brave, saying that on a CPAC stage, because that's very impressive. And like you said, the crowd is probably very super pro MAGA, and you're not even allowed to question anything. So I am very thankful for that. And Madeline, it was nice meeting you there.
Nice.
And what I want to say, so I want to say that Brandon is a very, 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 very I think it's very important that American people should focus on their own priorities, like buying American beef and stuff, helping the farmers and ranchers, and also trying to convince your politicians to focus more on America first, American national policies to get your country back on track. And maybe start thinking about it's not always gold what comes out of a MAGA administration. And I'm a MAGA fan, like I was, but right now maybe common sense and questioning what we were learned and taught to do while we're campaigning to get Trump back in office was always, yeah, you have to question and you don't have to trust anyone. So maybe we should keep that mindset still going.
Absolutely. And I want to say, Vicky, something that you mentioned earlier that I really appreciate about you is, as a journalist, you're really dedicated to the truth and getting, the facts and the objective, information out there, and not slanting and all of that. So I think that's very important for people to know, so that they can support you and all of your projects and hard work. So
thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Thanks for bearing with the early technical difficulties, but we got it together. And thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you. You inspire and motivate me. I heart you all. You're all beautiful, beautiful people inside and out in all the ways. Thank you guys so much for being here. You rock. Be in touch. Talk soon.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Everybody follow those amazing people and support all of their hard work and efforts. As you heard, it's a lot of boots on the ground out there doing the hard work. I can't say enough how much I admire and appreciate all of them. And I've met all of them. Well, I guess I haven't met Madeline in person. It feels like I have, but I interact with her. She's on the show a lot. But everyone else I've met, and they're lovely. So I hope you really enjoyed the conversation tonight. I think it's such important talks to be having, things that matter to all of us in the country, outside of the country, maybe even, but for sure here in America, it's a lot of things, issues, topics that are near and dear to our hearts. You can see it in the passion from Brandon's speech. I appreciate you all being here and joining this conversation. Thank you so much for the chat. I'm sorry if I missed some of your comments. I try my best. We'll be back Thursday. The next live stream for Bold Voices will be Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We will have Dr. Simon Goddick on. So definitely tune in for that. We'll be talking with the doc and doing a fun interview and talking, I don't know, we'll see, but health, medicine, stuff like that. If you haven't checked him out, it's Dr. Simon Goddick on X, and we'll be doing an interview on Thursday together, 9 p.m. Eastern. So stay tuned, tune in for that. You're so sweet, Joshua. Thank you guys for your love. Fun stream as usual. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, and I did as well. It does go by. I agree. It goes by fast because I'm so lucky and grateful to have such amazing guests all the time, and I appreciate them being here. Thank you guys so much, and an amazing, beautiful audience, of course, as well. So thank you guys again for everything. Thank you for the support. Please subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. We'll be back. Bold Voices Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. Have a great rest of your night, guys. Thank you so much for a beautiful stream together, and stay bold.